want to thank everyone for joining us this morning for today's call with Jake Pinegar. If you have a question for Jake, please use the raise hand feature. I'll call on you to unmute, and then you can ask Jake your question. Rich Scarcella?
Good morning, Jake. Thanks for doing this.
Of course.
Jake, you've been around this program for a long time, and you've seen one loss followed by another. How do you guys avoid that this week? What have you seen signs, any different signs of how the team is handling this loss as compared to ones in the past?
Yeah, I think it's just the mindset of taking it 1-0 each week. What happened last week was we dealt with it on Sunday. Made the corrections and wiped it away. Sunday evening, we're on to Minnesota, so it's just a 1-0 mentality each week. We wiped last week off, and it's a new week, so we're excited, we're prepared, and we're ready to go 1-0.
Daniel Gallen? Can't hear you, Dan. We'll come back to you, Dan. Andrew Clay?
Jake, you got out there in the windy Michigan air on Saturday. How much confidence booster is just a field goal like that when things have been kind of up and down this season, but those were not exactly the easiest conditions?
Yeah, it was really windy on Saturday. It was tough conditions for everybody, but it was not the longest kick in the world, so it was nice confidence booster, I guess. But yeah, just you got to be careful with the wind. Everyone had a play in it, so it doesn't really matter. But I'd say yeah, it's a confidence booster, I guess.
Daniel Gallen, try again. I still don't got you, Dan. If you have a question for Jake, please use the raise hand feature, and I'll call on you to unmute, and you can ask Jake your question. Andrew Destin?
Hey, Jake, I know it was a few years back, but I'm curious if you could take us through what you remember from that 2019 Minnesota game a few years back, two undefeated teams taking place at their place. Thanks.
Yeah, that was a big game. They played a really well game, like a really good game, and there were some things that we didn't execute on. But that's a couple years ago. This will be a good game. Minnesota's a good team, so it's going to be a good matchup. I'm looking forward to it.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Not to dwell in the past too much, but their offensive coordinator Kirk Shiraka was a guy who was part of your staff a few years back when you were part of the team. Did you have much of a relationship with him? I know it's OC, not a special teams coordinator, but I'm curious what that was like.
Yeah, he was a really nice guy. Shiraka was a really nice guy. I didn't have a super strong relationship with him, obviously. But the times that I was around him or had conversations with him and stuff like that, it was always positive, and he was a really nice guy.
Dan, let's try it again.
I think third time's the charm. You got me now.
Gotcha.
Awesome. Jake, some of the defensive players talked about what it was like to watch film on Sunday after a loss like that. For you guys on special teams, what is kind of the day after a loss like? What are kind of the things that you're focusing on on a Sunday like you just had?
Yeah, we watch the film as well. Obviously, the plays that we had, break down what we didn't do, what we didn't execute on, and things that we did that were also good. Break down the good and the bad. Talk about the game. Fix the things that we need to fix, and then the day after that, move on and get ready for the next opponent.
If anybody else has any here we go. Go ahead, Dan.
Jake, on for kickoffs, what does consistency look like for you? You know, what's your approach up there every time? Because that's something we've heard a lot about so far this season.
Yeah, for me, I mean, last week was really windy. It was tough out there, but for me, it's just about getting the ball to the end zone no matter what, and getting it, in between the hash and the numbers over and to the sideline. So about having consistent ball placement, and obviously kicking it, as deep as I possibly can.
Any final questions for Jake before we let him go? All right. Thank you, Jake, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jake.